Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Raina Bradley, the host of Food Thought, where food and culture meet. Each week, we invite local chefs and homegrown cooks to join us and share their diverse cultural backgrounds, food taste, and their various culinary delights. For our first season, we are having the Breaking Bread series. Bread is one of the most widely consumed foods throughout the world, where we take very simple ingredients, flour, salt, sugar, and yeast, and combine them in different ways to make something unique that pertains to each culture. This week, I'm happy to have with me my friend, my sister, Shivon. So glad that you joined us. Shivon wears many hats. She's a photographer, creative person, world traveler, caterer, model in her former life, maybe her current life. And she's here from the DC area, so from Maryland,
yes,
by way of Namibia,
correct,
by way of Guatemala,
yes,
and originally from Trinidad.
Correct.
Yes. So welcome. I'm happy to have you here, friend. You learned to cook from your parents and your grandparents. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, I did. It takes a village, and growing up, we'd be able to see our grandparents, our grandmothers usually cooking, and my mom, and it always looked fascinating. And the smells.
And the smell.
It was just amazing.
Like love.
Yes, and then you'd get into curiosity, I guess, would make you want to go and try it and learn what they're doing, because everyone would be like, wow, that smells so great. You're like, well, I need to learn how to make that.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. I started cooking, I guess, around the age of 12, and now I'm well past that, and I've continued. I do enjoy it. I think for me, the whole cooking experience is really to share it with friends. And I do love entertaining, and I do love having people visit where I can actually share some cultural stuff as well as what I've, my newly acquired, skills and trying something else.
Right.
And I think, I'm really excited.
And I've been a lucky beneficiary of being that friend and being entertained. So what are we sharing today? What are we doing?
So today we're going to try something different, and I know you've had it before, and it's something we call doubles.
Yes, not triples, but doubles.
It could be triples or quadruples, but let's start with the traditional doubles. And this is a street food.
Yeah.
Very famous street food in Trinidad. Anyone who visits there would have to have doubles. As soon as you get out of the airport, the aroma hits you, and you're like, what is that deliciousness? Yes. I must try it. So there are multiple vendors all across the country. So it doesn't matter what part of the country you're in, there will be someone who's making fried.
How big is Trinidad?
So Trinidad, the size of Delaware, and it's the most southerly island of the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. So, if you follow the chain of islands, Trinidad's the one just right next to Venezuela.
Yeah, I think you can actually see Venezuela.
It is 7 miles off the coast. So
yes.
You can actually see it. Correct.
Awesome. So they sell doubles all around the country. And
yes.
what is doubles? It has like multiple parts, right?
Yeah, doubles is basically two fried dough. And there's a quick history about that. It was food made by the indentured servants. It was cheap, it was affordable, it was filling. It was something quick that people could grab on their way to work.
Sure.
And it was, something created by indentured, for indentured, just to help them along, something they can eat.
Yeah.
So basically what it is just like any other typical bread. Ours is varying a little different with some turmeric because, it is an East Indian dish. So there is some turmeric in there. But basically it's flour. And we have here 2 cups of flour. We have a 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric.
Sure. Can we just pour it in?
Yeah.
What do you think? Yeah. Okay, let's do it. All that turmeric.
Oh yeah, just shake it in there.
There it is.
And we have 2 teaspoons of baking powder.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Toss that in.
Yeah, we have 1 tablespoon of sugar. And I use brown sugar, but you can use any sugar available to you. It doesn't have to be brown. It's my preference. The reason we put sugar in the dough is basically for flavor as well as color. Mm-hmm. So when it does fry, it does get this crispy little brown shell on there.
That's the best part.
There's a
nice
tiny
crispy
little bit
crunch.
of caramelization happening, but
Yes.
Then we also have 1 tablespoon of dried yeast, active dried yeast. That's what we usually use.
Just toss that in as well?
Yeah, just pop it in there. And we also I have here 2 teaspoons of Himalayan salt, but you can also use kosher or regular table salt, whatever your preference is. 2
Yes.
teaspoons is about right.
And Himalayan salt has this great pink color.
Yeah. And it's very healthy. And it might be stuck.
We'll just use our fingers.
There you go.
Let's get in there.
All right. Excellent. And then you want to stir it up a little just to incorporate all the ingredients in here.
Sure. And do we just jump on in with our hands?
Yeah, I mean, your
Is that
hands
how
are
we do it
clean,
traditionally?
and
Yes.
as long as your hands are clean, it's
All
all,
right.
just get a feel of the
Mix it
dough, a feel of the flour, a feel of the ingredients, and you can feel it between your
It's like
fingers.
pillowy soft.
Exactly. All right, and then you want to pour. Usually, I think for this amount, maybe a half a cup or just a little over would be fine. But just
Sure.
you want to pour slowly. And what you're looking for is a soft dough texture. And I'll watch you along the way and just see. I'll let you know
Make a
when
little
I think
well.
it'll be fine. So just.
And do we mix
there you
as
go.
we pour?
Yeah, mix as you pour, and
Okay.
just get a feel for it. You want a soft dough. You don't want a too loose dough, but just All right.
All right. This is very
So-
sticky, going from soft to paste.
But you can also already see the color of it developing. A nice soft yellow. It's like an egg yolk yellow. So I think this should be enough for you, and just you want to mix it in. Excellent. And this will probably need to proof, in a warm, dry place for probably an hour at most. I mean, you can do less if you're hungry and you really need to go at it, but usually I let mine sit for about an hour.
Sure.
And that usually gives us enough time for it to do its magic.
And proofing is just that time for it to rise, right?
Correct. Yes. And, you'll see it just gets so airy and light and bubbly, and it just smells like goodness.
And where do we normally proof?
You can proof. My usual safe space for proofing is in the oven. It's unlit, just in a warm, dark place. Just let it work its magic. If for any reason you want to prep this ahead of time, you can make it and then put it in the refrigerator overnight. Just cover it with some plastic wrap
Sure.
and put it in there overnight, and in the morning it'll be ready.
Do we add oil?
Yes.
I'm feeling
So
super sticky.
I think what you'll do is just put a little, maybe like 1 teaspoon or so of oil. And that's just to help get the dough off your hands as well as get it soft.
Very good. So doubles, you mentioned earlier that it's a street food initially made by indentured servants for indentured servants.
Correct.
But when you go to Trinidad, everybody eats doubles, right?
yes.
You
Oh,
see
yes.
the business people, the
Yes.
politicians.
Yes.
It's like the great equalizer.
Correct. It has grown. Like I said, this is where it started, the humble roots of, starting an indentureship and then moving on to now a national staple. Everyone, almost every day, gets doubles. I mean, vendors do not lack for patrons. It's more like a cultural experience where when you have your favorite vendor,
Yeah.
you go there every day, and he knows how much you want or how many you want. He knows how spicy, how many different sauces and all that, and we'll get into that later. But it's more a cultural experience at this point for people who
And does it matter
know.
how important you are when you get in the doubles line?
It does not. I mean, there's no favoritism there. You get served. There's no hierarchical order in double serving. You get in line and you get served based on your number. If you're a favorite, he'll be like, okay, give me your order ahead of time, and he can help you out.
Absolutely.
So, Rena, your dough is perfect.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm really impressed.
So
This is not the first time, I can tell.
No. Now, how did you know? How did you know?
So this, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll cover it up, and
Yes.
we'll put it away to proof for probably about an hour, and then we'll come back.
Yes. So the perfect dough, it's sticky. It's still a little tacky. Your hands might be a bit messy. But the oil helps it kind of adhere to itself, so it's more cohesive. And it's ready to go.
It's ready to go.
All right, now we have our dough all ready to go. It's
Yes.
risen really
Yes,
nicely.
it's proofed nicely too.
Proof really
Yes.
well. 100% proof. So now with our chickpeas over here, tell us what we're doing here.
Okay, so
what's
this
happening next?
This is pretty simple, and this is the filling part for the dough. So we use canned chickpeas. It's easy. You can use fresh, but it's a longer process. The can is just as good. So we have 2 cans of chickpeas here. Just rinse them out, and they're ready to go. We have some garlic.
Sure.
Usually for 2 cans, I would use two cloves of garlic here, and maybe like a little, maybe like 5 sprigs of cilantro. And in the pot, you pour this in, you crush your garlic, you throw it in there, put it on a low heat to simmer until it gets really tender and a little, you can smash them.
Yes.
You then want to add your puree. You can puree your cilantro or chop it, whatever you want. I tend to puree it. I like the flavor to steep within. So I usually put it in there, and then you cook it for probably around 30 minutes or so, 20-30 minutes, until it's kind of like a soft, mushy texture. And you'll see that when we're...
So how mushy are we talking? Is this like a stiff grits mush, or is it more of a pudding? What consistency?
I would say maybe like a puddingy, a thick pudding consistency that you'd use to put in there. Yeah, I
Absolutely.
think. Yep.
And then a lot of these ingredients, the cilantro, the chickpeas, these are very like Indian in nature, right? Or are they? Where are the chickpeas coming from?
Chickpeas, I do believe, they use them in many cultures and many different parts of the world. People do different things with chickpeas. We have, in the Middle East areas and other areas like that, they tend to make like things like hummus, which is not an Indian dish,
Sure.
but we use it to curry, chickpeas and make different dishes with them. So I guess on, whatever region, they cook chickpeas in many, many different ways. We just happen to cook it that way.
Gotcha.
So we're going to cook it without curry powder today, because some people do like curry, the taste and the smell of curry, and some people do not. I do personally, but in this case, we're not going to use it because I don't feel it's necessary.
Yeah, and it can be so overwhelming.
Yes.
Like,
And if you're not used to it, for
Yes.
your introductory 2 doubles, you do want to take a subtle approach. So I
Very
think
good.
just making it without the curry powder is fine. Just put it in a pot with some water, maybe like a cup of water, let it boil. Add your garlic, add your chopped cilantro, and let it cook down a little bit. Smoosh it up, salt and pepper to taste, and that's it.
Very good. So now that we will have our filling all set, what do we do with this risen dough?
So this is always fun, and I think I'd like you to try it, and so I will direct.
There you go.
So
Ready.
Get your hands are clean. Just get them oiled slightly.
Okay.
So you do want to get some oil in there. And the
oil.
reason you have the oil on your hand is so that the dough, which is very soft and tacky, does not stay on your hands. They stay where you need them to be.
Is that good? Nice and glossy?
Yes, I
Okay.
do like that. So you pinch a piece off the size of, let's say, a golf ball.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, so we pinched.
Yes. And then you want to put a little oil on the surface and press it out. You want to make it paper thin and probably around 5 inches in diameter.
Sure, and that's a little different. So no flour, just oil.
No. Yeah.
All right, we'll press it out.
Yeah. And these are things
Stretch.
that, we've watched and learned from, our relatives do it. Our grandmothers and stuff would make treats, and we'd enjoy it. And we do have people that we're familiar with who are vendors who do make this for a living. Trinidad is quite diverse in that
Yes.
we have people of all ethnicities there. We have the French influence in some of the architecture that you can see. There is Syrians, Lebanese, Chinese, Spaniards. It just Spanish. It's just a lot of different diversity. Not just Indians and not just Africans. Who came with who remained there after slavery, but it's very diverse.
So you just mentioned how diverse Trinidad is, and I think a lot of people might not be aware of that there's so many different peoples.
Right.
But I think some folks, you know, we associate the Caribbean a lot with people of African descent
Correct.
and Afro-Americans, but there's a large Indian population. Your family's Indian,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How did you guys come to be on the island?
So, from my understanding, because we go generations back, possibly my great grandfather came in as an indentured servant. And a little bit about the history with that is that, times were tough in India back in the 1800s, and they decided, they needed, slavery was abolished. They needed someone to come over and continue working on the plantations. We had a lot of sugar plantations.
Sure.
They had cocoa plantations, and they needed people to come over and work there. So they had contracts with people from India to come over. Usually it's like a 5-year or 7-year contract. They would pay them some money, they would give them some land, and they would also offer them free return passage back to
India. Wow.
when it was all said and done. None of that
Great-grandfather
happened.
Brian's not taking advantage of that.
None of that happened. Unfortunately, Grandpa wasn't offered. The deal didn't hold up. So he stayed along with many other people and, settled down and started a life there. It was very hard. It was very difficult. They weren't paid much. A lot of promises that were made to them weren't fulfilled. But they managed, and thus come up with creative ways to feed themselves and their neighborhood. So,
and the cultures, do they blend well? Do you see the fusion?
I think they do,
food
definitely so. I mean, we have one of the best carnivals in the world,
For those who might not know, explain carnival.
So carnival, it's an
it's not carnival, it's carnival.
Carnival. So Carnival, it's very international. A lot of different cultures. They celebrate in Brazil. They celebrate all over. They have a big one in Miami. They have it in Toronto has a big one. They have in London they celebrate as well. And it's basically just a time to celebrate, a time to let your guard down, cut loose a little and just really enjoy music and festivities and dancing, and some steel pans would come out.
Yes.
And it's a really pleasurable, entertaining time to visit.
Is it kind of like in New Orleans when they have Mardi
It
Gras?
is exactly like Mardi
Yes.
Gras, except we don't get beads.
No beads.
So no beads, but it is exactly like Mardi Gras, and just a good time celebrating, and so that's a good time to go. But the culture is so emerged. You find a lot of people, just all nationalities. If you would look at pictures or video from the carnival celebration, it's just a rainbow of people, just all over. So it's definitely a beautiful island. It is a wonderful place. People are warm and friendly. Every Trinidadian that somebody knows would be like, they're very hospitable.
Yes.
They're warm and inviting people. And I think, it says a lot about the culture, the people themselves, very inclusive. And so that's Trinidad in a nutshell. What else would you like to know?
One of the things I loved about Trinidad when I went is how it seemed so oriented toward people. Like, can you talk about that? Like, it seemed like you go to work, and you just come home, and instead of coming home and watching TV, or coming home and driving to the soccer game, or coming home and doing the side hustle, the side project.
Right.
When work was done, work was done.
Right.
And you would just hang out with your friends almost every day, it felt like.
Yeah, there's, socializing for a Trinidadian is, like breathing. We always have to engage, we have to talk, we have things to say, we want to be heard, we want to hear what others are going through. And growing up there, it was always like that. Like I said earlier, it kind of took a village to raise me and my siblings. And it was, a wonderful experience growing up as a child, spending time with my grandmother, gardening with her. That was always pleasurable. I have friends that I went to school with who, we still talk about growing up and sharing memories and things like that. So...
What did your grandmother garden? What did you grow?
So my grandmother, she grew just about anything, but she really loved growing corn and okras
Corn,
and peppers.
of all things.
Yes, corn, okras, and peppers, and that's what we did every year, her and I.
Not coconuts, not bananas,
No,
not
that
mangoes.
just grew. You don't have to plant those; they just grew. But actually spending time with her, doing stuff like that, and learning things from the kitchen. She was a tremendous cook. She's an amazing cook. I mean, you can smell her food from 2 doors down. And
Wow.
You're like, okay, Grandma's cooking. I gotta run over. So, anyway, so that's a little bit about the culture in Trinidad, and that's a little bit about what we do and how we do things.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much. So now what do we do with these next?
So next is the fun part. We get to fry them.
Yes.
We play with hot oil.
And so how long, just walk us through that process quickly.
All right, so these
And
are
then
already laid out, and you did a beautiful job. They're amazing. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get like 2 cups of oil in a skillet or a frying pan, and we're gonna heat it up to about 350,
Sure.
375, and you can play around with it and see. And these things take 30 seconds at most.
Sure,
They're
each side.
so fast. Yeah,
Yes.
you just, as soon as you put it in the oil and it bubbles, you gotta flip it. You don't wait for it to get brown or it'll be too hard.
All right. So now that we have fried our dough, we have also created our chickpeas, our chana from our
Yes,
chickpeas.
yes.
So what all was in that chana again, Shivon?
So basically, it was just the chickpeas from the can.
Yes.
Salt and pepper to taste. We did some garlic, and we added some cilantro.
Yes. So we simmered that a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we cooked it for about how long?
I would say 25, 30 minutes until it got really mushy, and we smashed it a little.
Yes. Nice and
Yeah.
tender. And then
Yes.
we put it in a blender.
Yes.
Real quick, pulsed it.
Yeah.
And now we have a beautiful savory chana. Yeah. All right. So
And
what do we?
We do have to serve it while it's warm.
Okay.
That's the key.
Got it.
It's got to be warm. It's got to be, fresh. That's how it's served. So I think what we should do is go ahead and dish it out.
Let's dish it out.
All right. So
Where do we
let's start with 1 flat bara
Yes, one bara.
on the base. And then you add some chickpeas to that.
Okay.
So as little or as much as you like. So the key is as soon as these come out of the oil, they're ready to eat. And the hotter
When they
they
still
are,
have that crunch you talked about.
Yes, they're crunchy, they're delicious, and you do want to get them as soon as possible. That's how they send them from the vendors. So you just have them ready and dish them out.
Yes.
And also, we're using this parchment paper for the authentic feel.
Uh-huh.
So the vendors
like the
that you
street
buy them
food.
on the street, because we did say this was street food.
Yes.
So it would be on a piece of parchment paper.
Okay.
They would then put the chickpeas on there. And then they'll ask you what kind of sauces you want. Do you want
Oh.
it spicy? Do you want it sweet? Do you want it medium spicy?
Yes.
And then we have various sauces here. We have one we made from our cilantro paste and
Garlic.
cilantro, hot peppers, salt and pepper. Here's a sweet tamarind sauce. We used tamarind paste and we added a lot of sugar.
Now, what is tamarind?
Tamarind is a fruit that grows in most of Asia.
Okay.
So you'll find it in a lot of cuisines. Thai
Yes.
Cambodia uses
Got it.
tamarind.
the
India uses
Caribbean
tamarind.
as well.
The Caribbean. So there's a lot of things you do with that.
Perfect.
It's a very small but powerful fruit. So use cautiously.
I know about small and powerful. And then what's this third
And
one?
this one was just to give it a fresh element. So we made cucumbers. We just grated some cucumbers and dehydrated them a little bit with salt, and then we added some cilantro or
No, we're not saying
some
put it in a
spices.
dehydrator, right?
No. What we're saying is just put some salt, let draw the water out, and then you can just use without it being too sloshy.
Got it.
Because you don't want soggy doubles. That's not okay.
No.
Right.
No, we need our crispy, chewy
Yes.
doubles.
Melt in your mouth experience.
Love the contrast between how thick and crispy the crust is
Yes.
and how soft the chana is. Okay,
So I do want to tell you something about doubles.
sure.
So I know you asked why is it called doubles and not a triple and all that. So basically, when the first vendor started selling it, it was basically this. It was one bread with the chickpea on it. And then someone came up to him and said, "Hey, really hungry, can you put another on top and double it up?"
Double it up.
Double it
Supersize
up.
me.
Yes. So that's how, by the end of the day, when it was all said and done, they started doubling it up, and that's how you got doubles.
Thank God for that man.
Yes.
His hungry self.
Yes. And now, when you're really even more hungry, you can ask for a triple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So then you put the other one would go on like this.
So now it's a double.
It's a doubles. So that's how it is. And the vendor does something really fancy where he can, and I don't know, I haven't done this in a while, where he can like spin this thing around and basically it'll be wrapped something to this effect. And
almost like a burrito.
It's
so
almost,
you just...
yeah, exactly. It's like a burrito. And it'll be something way better than this because obviously I'm rusty. And then you unwrap it from the vendor and you have paper that, you know, would protect your hands from getting, you know, oily and all that. And then basically you pinch it, you break a piece of it off, and you eat it.
Very hands-on.
So yeah, so it is a hands-on. There's your hands are occupied.
Hands in the dough.
That's right.
Hands on the bara.
Yep. And what do you think?
That was amazing.
That's good.
Amazing.
You did a great job. High five.
High five. Oily hands.
You're an honorary Trinidadian now.
Yeah. Was there ever a doubt? But what I love about doubles is because you use all these toppings that it's like the melting pot right on your plate. So you can
Correct.
get a sweet bite, you can get a fresh bite with a cucumber, something more savory, a little more spicy. Every single one is a little different. You can try to like recreate the last bite if you want to.
That's right. And I think that's the draw for more. It's like, okay, let me have another and another, you know, and pretty soon you have 2 or 3 of these and you're pretty filled up. Yeah.
This is good. Sorry. Oh, my friend, I appreciate you so much for coming out, sharing a bit about your culture, your food. Always a pleasure to see you. Thank you guys also for joining us at Food Thought, where again, we just showcase how different cultures bring together the same simple ingredients to make something that's unique and particular to them. Always remember that carbs are like friends. There's always room for more, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.